Hi, I'm Dr. Ramya. I'm the founder of Healing Cloud. It's an online platform for holistic wellness. I'm a homeopathic physician. I'm currently practicing between Pune and Bangalore. My physical clinic is at Bangalore. Okay, so good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well, and welcome to today's live. We're going to talk about the psychology behind your physical health. Simply put, the mind-body connection that is there and how your mind affects your body, and then there is a disease condition. So joining me is Preethi Sunalini. She's a therapist and a parenting coach. So Preethi will introduce herself now.
Namaste. So I'm Preethi. I'm a parenting coach and therapist. I've been in the field of mental health for over a decade now, I think. Yeah, it's 2022. More than a decade now. And I'm also I'm a hypnotherapist. I've done various other certifications in NLP, EFT, Silva. I also dabble with constellations to some extent, chakra healing, Reiki. So in a way, my journey has been through holistic healing to understand wellness from multiple perspectives, somewhat similar to what you're talking about. And that's what I do. So I take up individual sessions, I coach parents, I work with individuals on relationship issues, emotional issues, and all of that. I also conduct sessions on life skills and gender equity, reproductive health as part of my work with Enfold. And I have my own setup called Integrated Parenting. And that's the brand under which I work.
That was really nice. Yeah, Preeti, so we'll start off. Okay,
Sure.
first I'm going to introduce a little bit and then you can take over from there. Okay, so when we start to think about health and disease, how do we generally perceive it? You know, a lot of people generally perceive only the physical symptoms, you know, whatever is externally shown by the body, and that is how they get treated. That is the conventional way of seeing things, you know. But homeopathy here is it's a little different in homeopathy, where we actually give equal importance to mind and the body, because both work hand in hand. There is no body without the mind, and there is no mind without the body. If something affects the mind, it is seen on the physical body. If something affects the physical body, it obviously affects the mind. You know, in this way, homeopathy is a holistic system of medicine where everything is, you know, perceived equally. What we generally, when patients come to us, you know, what we generally ask them initially is like what emotions they are going through, and we try to get to know about them through their life space investigations, like how they are as a person. It starts from childhood until that time, and we try to see what challenges they've faced, what kind of a personality they've become, and obviously a lot of environmental factors also, you know, affect in the making of a human being in terms of emotions and all the other things. So basically, when we you know, think see the disease and we try to track it back to the mind, we try to see where it all started, and from there we try to link it, and then we give them a suitable remedy, so that helps them, you know, get back to a healthy state. And it also reverses the pathology that has happened, because you are trying to, you know, you actually block, I mean, clear that block that is there at the level of the mind also. So healing happens at the mental level and the physical level. Okay, so this is basically what we do. Ours is a very elaborate case taking. I mean, you will be knowing, since you do a lot of therapy and all those things. You will also be asking like similar questions, right? Starting from their childhood, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So
In fact, I've been with homeopathy about 5, 6 years now. And the first time I walked into a homeopath's office, the number of questions she asked me, I was zapped. Right? She went all the way to my relationship with my parents when I was a child, where all I've traveled and what kind of diseases I've had. I was like, are you like to address this issue? You need to know so much. I was really impressed, and it was lovely to know that there is a big sync between the work that I do and how homeopaths work. I was really, really happy. And I've been
Yeah, that's really
with
nice.
homeopathy.
We actually try to find out the sensitivity of that person. You know, each person is different. Each one's sensitivity is different. So from that perspective, we can also predict what kind of diseases they might have in future. Yeah,
Hmm.
that also helps. And when we take the family history of the parents, and through that also we are able to tell them what kind of diseases that they'll be having in future. Yeah, so it's a whole lot of things from their personal life, from their parents' history, from everything around them, their family, work, friends. Like we touch each and every aspect of their life, trying to find out, where all they're facing challenges and all the other things. Yeah, so it'll be really great to, get to know more about it from psychological perspective in this session. I would really love for you to start off and we'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Ramya. Like you said, when there's a health issue, there is so much of focus on the physical symptoms, right? And if you look at human existence itself, we exist in multiple dimensions. We are multidimensional beings, so to say. At the very basic level, we must have heard of mind, body, soul. Now, if you take the mind, we also exist at the conscious level, the unconscious level, the subconscious level, the metaconscious level, the superconscious level, the supraconscious level. So there are multiple layers within the consciousness itself. And when we talk about the body, we have something called as the koshas, right? So there is the physical body, there's the emotional body, there's the mental body, the intellectual body, and then the bliss body, the spiritual body. And then when we look at everyday living, the basic decisions we make, the choices that we make, the actions that we take, the way we perceive life is based on what we call as the internal representation system, which is what decides how I perceive a situation. Now, this internal representation system is what holds what I call as my identity, how I perceive myself as a person with my qualities and values and principles and attitudes. And based on that, I perceive what another person is saying or doing, whether it is good, bad, right, wrong, respectful, not respectful, this is appropriate, this is inappropriate, how I need to dress, how I need to talk, what kind of gestures are okay to make. So all of this comes from the internal representation system. So when a client comes to me with an issue, whether it is addiction or a relationship issue or a performance issue at work, or it is something to do with personal growth, personal challenges in terms of fears and phobias and self-esteem issues and all of that. The biggest challenge is to figure out which of the layers hold the actual key to the issue.
Yeah.
And that comes from, most of it comes from, case intake. Like you said, asking the right questions, understanding their background, where they come from, what kind of relationships they had, what were the most significant events in their life, what was traumatic to them, or what felt good for them, what boosted their confidence, what took away their confidence. So all of that will matter when we are addressing, say, somebody, talking about, okay, I'm unable to communicate well with my boss. There are so many times we can trace it back to something that happened, let's say, when the person was 4 years old, 3 years old. Why? In fact, as part of, when we do regression using hypnotherapy, it's absolutely not uncommon for a person to regress back to their womb stage, where they are able to say what they are hearing, what the mother is saying or the father is saying, or what the mother's experience is, and how that has shaped their view of life and how they need to be in this particular environment, or how to relate to the world, right? So given this, that we exist in so many dimensions, it's fairly restrictive, and then it's almost like a tunnel vision, that you look at a physical symptom as something that only belongs to the body. So for us to function harmoniously, the mind, body, and soul needs to all function together, right? So even if one of these elements is not functioning okay, or is having a challenge, or is missing, definitely something's going to go wrong.
Yes, even at the cellular level, I mean, the homeostasis, happens at the cellular level. It happens from there. When something is disturbing you at the mental level, the level of your mind, when you get those physical symptoms, it also tells you that something is wrong at the cellular level, because everything is changing from there, and that is how you are coming out with, symptoms. So it is very important, and sometimes we really don't appreciate the fact that our body, like each and every cell in our body, is like working together to keep everything together. And it's really nice to know how mind affects such
Totally.
smallest of things.
Since you spoke about the cell, it is suddenly occurring to me, to share, the human baby comes from two individual cells, right? And these two cells, when they merge and multiply and become a zygote, a fetus, or whatever, at each stage, the cells multiplying, technically it should be the same, right? But we don't have two hearts and five hands and six stomachs, right? So cells among themselves figure out, you go through the segregation process to say, okay, so we're all a bunch of cells. You know what? This team of cells, you handle this aspect of the body. This team of cells, you handle this aspect of the body. And that's how we're going to come into synchronicity. So there is intelligence at the cellular level.
Most
So that is what
definitely.
we
And
call
that is how
as
the stem cells
biological.
differentiate themselves into different kinds of cells in the body. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that is why scientists of today, make use of the stem cells to correct genetic mutations.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so now to connect how the mind and the body impact each other, right? It is useful to understand the structure of experience. What we call as structure of the experience is basically when you are living through life, you're going through various circumstances, right? In any given circumstance that you walk into, that you're experiencing, there are so many things that are happening. And based on that, there are so many thoughts that come through our mind. And of the hundreds of thoughts that may be passing through us, there are one or two that catch our attention. And which of these thoughts catch our attention is based on our conditioning, is based on what I think is important and how it impacts me, right?
Yeah.
And this importance, this significance that I'm giving is basically like adding a charge to that thought. When I say charge, I mean energy. So if we look at all of existence is matter, and all of matter is energy. So which means thought is also an energy, right? So when I add this energy, now that energy is set into motion, because energy can neither be destroyed nor created. It has to move from one point to another. This energy that I set in motion is what we call as emotion, right? The more I engage with this particular thought, the more I feel for it. This emotion, as it's moving, it gets more and more dense, and it sinks into the physical body. And that is when we have a feeling. Now, that's the difference between an emotion and a feeling. Emotions help us understand where we are with respect to what's happening,
Yeah.
right? But they are not intense enough to push us to take action. And when they get dense enough to come into the physical body, and when we have this feeling is the fuel for action. That is what pushes us to take action.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of time in our everyday life, because we are civilized and cultured and we are conditioned to, we have to behave in a certain way or keep up a certain front, a certain, um, we want people to perceive us a certain way, right? So a lot of times this feeling that is pushing us to take action, we are unable to take action. say for example, I'm on the road and somebody crosses me and I'm like so mad at this person. I just want to like pulp this person. It could well be my boss. My boss says something and I just want to give him one tight slap in the face, but I can't
You kind of
because
internalize
that's the
that
kind of
emotion, right? Yes.
absolutely right. So what happens to this feeling? This feeling is not getting translated into action, and it stays inside. It doesn't go anywhere. It is absolutely possible that it fades into the background so that you can move on. In fact, that's what happens because I can't carry this energy, this feeling of say shame or sadness or anger or helplessness or whatever it is every moment of every day. So this energy that is in my system, it clumps together. It clumps together, something like putting it in a Ziploc file. Yeah. And it slightly detaches from the rest of my being, the rest of my energy system. But it's still there. It's like you don't want to see a file and you just put it at the back of your cupboard. It's something like that. But the moment there is any other incident that triggers a similar emotion, a similar thought, a similar feeling, automatically that zip folder zips open.
Yes.
And that part of me that is frozen, that is stuck, that is locked up in that zip folder is stuck in time and space. So let's say as a 6-year-old, sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I also wanted to tell that just in case that emotion that we are feeling is very intense, say anger or rage or something, the body just shows those symptoms within few hours to few days. So that is what we call as acute diseases in homeopathy. I
Absolutely.
mean, when a patient comes, we ask what changes they had like previously, like when ask them like 2 days, since 2 days or 3 days, in terms of their diet or general lifestyle or any emotion or any strong emotion that they have felt. And mostly we generally will be able to pinpoint at something that has happened like 2 3 days before, because without a trigger it can't just come out, the symptoms just can't
Absolutely.
pop up. So
So before that symptom turns up, for this is actually a lot more instant with children, right? For adults, the difference between children and adults is that it's a lot of accumulated emotion because it's not expended, because it's not translated into action. It just gets piled up over the years. And then it's just like a pin drop, just a feather touch. And then it just bursts open because the pressure that's built inside because of this pileup of energy is too much, right? And the body needs to release it at least to some extent in order to be able to contain itself. And that's when, if there is no physical action, it comes out as a physical symptom. And for emotions or feelings that get piled up for a really long time, and then you really try to put a whistle on it, a plaster on it, and try to like cement it somewhere under the carpet, it at some point it will create dis-ease, which is what we call a disease.
yes, that could be a chronic problem also. That could be something that you will experience after a certain point of time in life. It might not happen like right away. Even such cases
Yeah.
we have seen that something has happened like 10 years ago, that has been there, and there have been small triggers. Yeah, like you told, it did not come out as an action. So that is internalized and it affects a specific part of the body. We generally connect each symptom when patients come and tell us the symptom. When we track back the emotion, we can actually tell them why it has affected the particular part of the body. If a particular part of the body is affected, and some people, they are not really aware of such things, that emotions can actually give rise to a physical symptom, and they just come to us stating that they have a pain somewhere in the knee or something happened, something, they just come to us, and then we know what question that we need to ask them in terms of emotion. Like we know which part is affected, so we know where to go back, which emotion has affected them. So when we dig deep and ask them about that emotion, and they start thinking and they go back and they be like, yes, this had happened. 99% of the times we have something there.
I would actually go so far to say it's 100% of the time. I've never had a miss in more than 10 years of my life, right? So in fact, one of the first questions that come up is, okay, so what are the physical issues that you have? What are the chronic issues that you have? What are the acute issues that you have right now? What are the presenting symptoms in terms of physical symptoms? Usually when somebody comes to a psychotherapist, they're not thinking about the physical body. They usually go, rattle off with what's happening in their life right now and what is their biggest challenge, whether it's with the relationship or performance or academics or whatever it is, right? So the physical symptoms, like you said, gives an it gives an instant idea about a whole lot of things that have been piled up inside, right? And that I think has been the most crucial aspect for me, which has allowed me to do some really deep work and really quickly with my clients, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
and
when it comes
sometimes a lot of patients, they deny a lot of, if they are embarrassed or something, they're embarrassed to tell certain life incidences to us. And when we actually specifically ask them that something like this should have happened, just look back and let us know. And then they're like baffled. They're like, how do they know something like this happened in my life? Like, you have to, there has to be something.
but
Because the body doesn't lie. Yes, the body doesn't lie. Whatever happens there. Sorry?
can you repeat that?
I mean, what I meant to say is the body doesn't lie. I mean, they might deny a lot of things, but we can see the symptoms that are there, like right in front of us. So we know from where they're coming. So and when
Yeah.
we kindly sit and dig it deep and we sit and talk to them for hours, and then they kind of open up and tell us when they find that confidence in us, and then they're like, okay, so how did you get to know? Like that is how it is.
So I used to do aura photography. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is biowell equipment. Before that, I used to do, I forgot the name of that particular software. But anyway, aura photography may basically the equipment captures the energy system and shows the amount of energy that is flowing through different organs, different nadis, as in the different chakras. It shows clearly what is the usual ideal pattern and what is missing or what is different. And most of the places that most of my clients who have been to aura reading with others and have come to me, they're quite surprised because my way of giving them a reading is usually to say, okay, so this is a chakra that's blocked. It means this. So this is the part of your body that's having a reduced energy flow, which means there's a blockage. It means you feel like you've not utilized your potential fully, or you feel like you're really angry with somebody, but you're unable to show it, or you're ready to fight all the time. You're always on edge. Seems like you're really anxious. Looks like you've gone through a huge transition in your life recently. Right? So being able to see that physical evidence, so to say, in terms of colors, in terms of numbers that comes as a report, that is deeply validating for a person to know, oh my God, this is actually true. She's not just goofing off in the air.
Yes.
Now, when we
Yeah.
talk about children, we were talking about how it impacts children, right? So, when it comes to children, this is much, much closer because children are very much in alignment with themselves. The body and mind is a lot more in alignment than it is with adults, which also happens because of impulse control. So, for children, the younger the child, when they're in discomfort, the slightest discomfort, the entire household knows. There are no two ways about it. Or if they're happy, again, the entire household knows. There is no difference between how they're feeling inside and what they're doing. So many times you must have also heard this, parents saying that my child is falling sick a lot, especially now after COVID.
Yeah.
because this is a huge shift and it's not easy, right? And that discomfort in whatever way the child is feeling, if it is anger, it's likely to be fever. If it is
Yes.
irritation, it's likely to be a cold,
Yes.
right? As that subtle difference of what emotion it is and which part of the body a person is feeling, whether it is a child or an adult, that tells us something about what their internal experience is. And being able
Absolutely.
to identify this and read the emotions behind the physical body is a great way to understand our children, especially because children a lot of times lack the vocabulary to tell us what they're really going through. In fact, a lot of adults ourselves miss out on,
And it's
being able to
challenging also,
articulate that.
to sit with kids and to come to a conclusion what has happened. A lot of observation has to be done, just let the child be and just observe what the child is doing. And we generally ask the parents also, like I told you, like, are there any changes in the emotions? How was the kid in school? How did the kid behave once the kid came back? A lot of people come with sudden fevers and wheezing and all these things. And when there is any respiratory issue like a wheeze or something, we generally ask if the child, was scared of something. Was there fear involved? That directly affects the lungs. Because some parents, they're not really aware of such things. You just say no, it might be an ice cream. It could have been. I mean, she was playing outside and it was raining and all those things. What we ask at that time is, okay, but does your child always play like that outside? And the child obviously will eat ice cream more often than we know. So they
What was
say
so
yes.
special about that
We
day?
ask them. So we ask them, what happened that the child was affected this time and not previously when the child was having an ice cream. Yes, but when the child was playing in the rain. So there has to be something. So when we ask, there will be some kind of a fear involved. And once we give the proper remedy, and that block is gone, and the child starts to feel better emotionally and physically. Yeah,
Mm.
like that. Everything can be like linked. We can like sit and talk about this for hours together. And maybe we'll touch a few points here and there later on about
Sure,
how
actually,
each emotion affects each part of the body. Something like that. We can
yeah,
do that later.
yeah. So before we get there, what I did want to say is we're talking about fear, right? So I would like to talk about the stress response.
Yeah.
So when we are faced with a difficult situation, any kind of a situation that is perceived by the mind as a threat. Now, when we think of threat, we are thinking something big, right? Accidents or somebody yelling or somebody hitting you or physical abuse. We usually think about it in those terms. So if you go back in time to, let's say, evolutionarily when we were cavemen,
Yeah.
cave people. I'm sorry, no gender bias there. So when we were cave people. um, yeah, the
The
biggest threat,
biggest people of animals, right?
yes, was of animals, right? So when the biggest threat is animals, what are
Yeah.
the options that we have when a person is faced with the threat of an animal, a wild animal, depending upon whether it is a wolf, a jackal, a porcupine, or is it a lion or a tiger? The mind instantly, it's not even a couple of moments or minutes, it's instantly goes into a fight, flight, freeze
Response.
response,
Yeah.
which is what we call as the stress response. Yeah. So when there is a fight response, the body, the mind decides that, okay, I think I can fight this to safety.
Yes.
And at that time, the blood rushes to the upper part of the body to help the body to fight, to help the upper limbs to fight. And when it is that, okay, this is too big, I don't think I can fight this, there is not even the time to think this,
Yeah.
right? Instantly, blood rushes to the feet. And the feet
Extremity.
are away.
Run. Yes.
You just run. You just want to get away from there. And in that process, whether you're fighting or you're flighting, during that entire period until you arrive at safety, there is absolutely no perception of physical pain.
Yes.
The thorns are cutting through you, or the animal has clawed you somewhere, or you hit yourself with a rock or a boulder. It does, yes, it hurts, but your mind is not taking in that sensory input. It blocks it out because it has to conserve all its energy to survive. And that survival instinct takes you through the fight or flight. And once you're out to safety, once you're away from danger and you have arrived to safety, then slowly the body comes back to homeostasis,
Yes.
right? And that is the time when slowly your sensory perception comes back. Now you start to think, oh my God, there's such a big
Yes.
cut here. Oh, there's inflammation in my knee. I sprained my ankle. Gosh, I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
In fact, I distinctly remember this client. Um, his toe had been cut off, and
Mm.
he didn't realize it for more than an hour, right? Because the body is in that survival mode. Now, at least in your caveman days, you can move to a place of safety where you know you're really out of sight of danger, and you can breathe back to life. And your body can take the time now to repair itself, to heal. But today we are carrying around our tigers and jackals up in the head.
True. Yes. Most definitely.
My parents, my in-laws, my boss, for some people their children, for some people their partners,
And the social
right?
circle, the friends, a lot of things,
Absolutely. Or
work.
society. What will society think about me?
Something
Right? So
as simple as commuting from one place to another can be very stressful.
absolutely. And it is not just that moment where I'm in the incident, where I'm being stressful, but simply thinking about it recreates the same bodily reaction. And it is
It's the
most distinctly visible in people who, who say have panic attacks and anxiety attacks. It's not just when they are standing in front of the mic or when they are standing in front of an authority figure. It is just thinking about that authority figure happens.
when you're scared of heights, when you're scared of something, the very thought of thinking about you jumping off from somewhere itself, makes you all
Yeah,
sweaty, your heart starts beating fast and whatnot. Yeah.
exactly. Right. So what is happening there is the moment the thought comes, the image comes up, the brain cannot differentiate between whether this is a stored image or a perceived image. What it does recognize is the red flags. Let's say, for example, that caveman, before he saw whatever wild animal it was, he was picking up stones, playing with the children, whatever, and then there was a rustle by the leaves, or something just crashed. There was a huge thud, and he turned. What was that? And then the animal appears. Now the mind is storing rustling of leaves, the sound of that rustle, the sound of that thud, as a red flag. So
Yes.
anytime in the future, for the rest of his life, there is a thud, his antennas would be up, because
The brain makes
that,
up
yes, so
brain.
that flagging is what increases the chances of survival. So the first time he had to make that connection, okay, there's a thud, now what? But now the mind assumes when there's a thud, you're in danger, just run. When there is a thud, you're in danger, prepare to fight. Whatever was that initial reaction. So today, this fight, flight, freeze begins pretty much from birth.
Yes.
I can't flight, no doubt, but oh God, I don't want to be here. I wish I wasn't here. I wish I didn't have to listen to this. That is the mental version, psychological version of the flight response, right? And that is stored. So when an authority figure yells at me, okay, let's say a 6-year-old is being yelled at by the mother, and when the child was 4 years old, there were a bunch of people. The child dropped something, and the mother was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I told you to be careful. Don't you understand? So the mother is yelling at the child. So that instant, hey, what are you doing? That creates that there.
Threatened. Mm.
Yes. And whether the child chooses to fight back, as in speak back, yell, scream, whatever, or the child chooses to flight, to get away from there, go hide behind granny, grandpa, run to the father, run to somebody else, or go away into a room. Whatever the child chooses to do, the child does that, and it is instinctive, it is not planned. So let's say this particular child, obviously the emotion comes up and there are tears, and if the child felt shame, there is that distinct feeling
Withdraws
of
from this
shame.
thing. So that yes, the child withdraws
Yeah.
itself from situations and tries to confine itself somewhere. Doesn't play
Yes, exactly.
with friends. Yeah.
Let's say that is the option that the child takes. But the child ends up, starts crying and just tries to get away from mother and goes into a room and confines itself. So in that time when the child is sitting away, there are so many thoughts that are coming up. Why would mother do this to me? Oh God, I feel so ashamed. So in order for the child to be able to make sense of the experience, it tries to make conclusions that give meaning to the situation. Mom must really hate me. Oh God, people must think I'm stupid.
Or I might
I'm
be the reason
not a
who
good
want to
person.
react in such a
Yes.
way. A lot of
Yeah.
kids can, yeah, they actually go to their parents and say, sorry, was it because of me that you got
Mhm.
angry? Yeah, a lot of kids do that.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So all of these thoughts help the child to make sense of whatever this experience was. And once that meaning, that those thoughts help the child make sense of the situation. The humans are meaning making machines. We do want to know why it happened, what this means, what could this lead to, all of that, right? So instinctively, there is a certain conclusion about the situation, about themselves, and what to do next time,
Yes.
right? I'm never going to hurt my mother again. I'm so stupid. I just don't want to show my face anymore. I can never do anything to please people. I'm just not lovable. So, whatever that thought or conclusion is, it helps them to make sense of the situation. And the next time something similar happens, that part of you says, see, I know I'm stupid. Yeah. This just goes to prove it. Or the next
Yeah,
time something,
it sometimes goes into the child's subconscious mind, and as the child grows up, also that reflects in the personality.
it is not sometimes, it's always.
All the time.
That when you look at it is when you look at the layers of the mind, there is a conscious mind and the subconscious mind, right? So what do you think the conscious mind does? What does the mind do?
It,
Usually the
as
response is,
yeah,
sorry?
yeah, you continue. You
Okay.
continue.
So usually when you look at, when I ask what does the mind do, the usual responses are it thinks, it analyzes the situation, it helps me make decisions, it helps me take action perhaps, it helps me respond. Now all of this is done by 8 to 10% of the mind, which is the conscious mind. So right now, whoever is listening to me, or you're listening to me, you're perceiving whatever I'm saying through your senses, right? So this perception and analyzing, is she saying what she's saying, does it make sense, is happening at the conscious level. Now the rest, 90% of the mind, which is what we call as the subconscious mind, what does that part do then? If everything is handled by conscious mind,
It is
huh?
relating everything from your experience at the back of the
Yes,
mind.
it is
It's actually
simply collecting information. It's just
yes,
absorbing information. It's just taking in. There is no analysis by the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is simply storing information. So right now, when you're listening to me at the conscious level, you're taking in information, and whether or not what I'm saying makes sense, you compare it with what you already know. So you're comparing notes, making references, and saying, "Huh, this ticks off. This doesn't make sense. Oh, really? Does this happen? Based on what you already know. And that what you already know is basically being presented to you from the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is simply a memory bank. It collects all information, all experiences,
And
right from the
record.
time of conception.
So most definitely, yeah, that is also one thing I wanted for us to talk about, like how emotions affect pregnant mothers and in turn the baby. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me to finish this, so what all the experiences that are stored in the subconscious mind is what comes back out as it's stored as a belief, as a
And that's how
filter.
it's formed, right? The
Yes,
subconscious mind
absolutely.
absorbs everything and it plays it back to you.
This is what we call as the critical filter. Because right now, if I ask you to write your name, you're not going to be practicing slanting lines and straight lines and sleeping lines. You think Ramya and you just write it because you've done it so many times. It's
Yes.
just unconscious. And when you're reading a book, the first time you're reading this particular story or this particular line, you're able to recognize it. You're not thinking, okay, there's a standing line, on top of there's a system, this must be T, this must be H. No, it just happens fluidly, right? Because it comes from your subconscious mind. It creates applications in the filter that help us make sense of the world around us. So the first time mother said this, I did this, mother said this, I felt this way, this is what I think it means, right? No, this is what I think it means, whether it is I'm stupid, mother doesn't love me, I can't trust people, I don't belong here, nobody loves me, I'm not good enough, whatever it is, that thought, that belief, that conclusion that we arrive at gets installed in the filter. It's like wearing rose colored glasses. So basically, you're wearing whatever decision colored glasses. And whatever happens in life, you're perceiving that particular incident, you're perceiving that particular event, experience through that lens. And that is the reason when two of us are in the same movie, the same situation, what we take back from that incident, what we take back from that particular movie is very different. The tenant said this, and one partner thinks, he's like, huh, that was being friendly. And the other partner is like, you're kidding me, right? You really didn't see they're being manipulative? This one's like, manipulative? Where did manipulation come from? Because that filter doesn't exist for this person. The same incident, same set of words, the same set of people. Why? Even if it is you and your sibling, you're brought up in the same family with the same set of parents.
Even twins for that matter.
Absolutely, right? So,
Yeah.
because our experiences are different, the way we perceive the world is different based on the values that are important to us, based on the beliefs that the conclusions that we have made, the meaning that we have given to what happened. So, which means at some level, none of us are reacting or responding to what's happening right now. We are responding to everything that ever happened in my life
It's all the
based on
same.
that I'm deciding what's happening now. And that's what I'm responding to.
Yes.
So for this child, as a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, this incident happened. The child decided, I'm just so stupid. I never want to show my face again. And once this meaning is made, the emotion, the energy, the feeling that is there spread out in my system now slowly collects itself together because I cannot live with this every moment of every day. And it puts it in a Ziploc and files it away for future reference. And that's when the child is able to brush it off, get up, and move on like nothing happened. Now, whatever number of years later, I'm sure it happens more often, say 2 months later, there is another incident where the teacher says, he's like, I taught you this as today. You can't remember even something so simple. It's the same humiliation that may come up for the child.
Yeah.
And what is the thought associated with it? I'm just so stupid.
I'm useless, I'm stupid. Yeah.
I just don't want to be seen. So what does the child do? The child is going to hide its face, trying to get away, try to get out of the class, move away from everybody else, withdraw from the world. Now, this same child, 20
is going to
years
grow.
later, 40 years later, the boss is saying something. The first instance, the 5-year-old is going to come alive. The boss is saying something. He's like, I told you to finish this. Can't you see that? Do you see your own folly? Do you see your own mistake? And immediately the same shame comes up.
Yeah.
And the same response that was given by the 5-year-old is given now. Because for the mind, for the subconscious mind, the primary goal is survival. To survive, to simply survive.
It doesn't
That's
reason
how they
out.
don't survive the situation.
Yeah.
Right? So which means whatever strategy was used then is perfectly valid for us to survive today. So that 5-year-old now jumps into action and says, hey, now I'll handle this. I know what to do. This just means you're stupid. All you need to do is walk away from here. And that's what happens. And that's where we have 25-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds who still shiver when they see an authority figure, who start crying. When things move on, when the situation moves on, at a later point in time, they retrospect, reflect, and think, I know I shouldn't have done that. That's just so stupid of me. I know that's not right. I'm a grown-ass person and I shouldn't have to do this.
But
I
in
should
that
have not
situation,
spoken
the
like that.
subconscious mind is working and not your conscious mind. So
Exactly. So it is
when
that
you go,
frozen part of you that's in action. Now, when that frozen part of you has ensured you're safe, it goes back into the file. Now the adult of today comes up and says, what stupidity was that? I shouldn't have done that. I know it. And I don't know why I did that.
yes, a lot of times, all of us experience this.
Exactly, right? So how do we relate this to what we're talking about? So what happens today, instead of looking at it simply as a physical symptom, we can look at it as, what does this really mean? What am I feeling right now? Where is this coming from? What is it? How am I perceiving this situation that is making me feel this way? It is never reality that makes us feel X, Y, Z. It's only our perception of reality. The tenant said that, one partner said, hey, that was friendly, and the other person thought that was manipulated. Because something about what the tenant did or said, each person perceived differently.
Simply, yes. That is what makes that person unique, and that is what we believe in homeopathy also, that each person is, different and very unique. We do not prescribe the same medicine to people who come with similar problems to us. We have tailor-made remedies for each person because we know the sensitivity of the person is different. We know from where they're coming, what has affected them, because one given situation cannot affect each person in the same way. Like you told,
Mhm.
their year-long experiences, everything, whatever they have experienced comes into play. And yes, whatever their sensitivity is, they will obviously, go towards that and they react in certain way and they end up with certain
Different.
diseases. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at children, we usually say, this they'll forget, yeah, they won't remember. Impossible.
Yes.
If we can regress a person back to the womb, I don't think it's hard for us to believe that a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old will remember what happened. But at the end of the day, the details of the situation may not be available at the cognitive level, at the conscious level. The details of the situation may not be alive for us because it's locked away. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist. It is not there, right? The oldest book in a library still exists in that library if it's functioning. What are the books that customers and people usually reach out to? That's probably kept right at the front. Every library will have a back-end section where there are a good number of books that are filed away,
Really
old
nicely, yeah.
editions, right?
Yeah.
So if you walk into a library and say, okay, I want the, I don't know, 1920s edition of this particular book, if they have it, They will say, okay, just come back in a couple of days. I need to figure it out. Because they need to dig in. They need to go far back to get it. But a more recent edition, they will give it to you like that because it's just readily available. In the same manner, what happened to us recently, the recent memories, especially memories associated with what happened after our cognitive abilities have reached a certain level, right? We have been able to analyze them and recognize that, and something that has deeply really impacted us, those situations perhaps come to us easily. I can remember, okay, when I was in third standard, when I moved to fourth standard, I moved to a different school. And the first day when I went in to write my exam, I remember what I was wearing because it was a really scary experience for me. But if you ask me in the August of that month, who was your closest friend, which bench were you sitting, I don't know at the cognitive level, at the conscious level. But now when I go through regression, when we do hypnosis and we go deeper, we access the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. At that level, because everything is stored, people say, I'm sitting in the third bench. There are two girls sitting in front of me. To my left is this person. My teacher's wearing a gray shirt or a blue sari. And this is what happens, and this is what I'm thinking, this is how I'm feeling, I'm terrified. This is what I conclude. They can give you in detail narration of what happened, moment to moment. Why? I even had people who've had, who've narrated womb experiences. And they come out of regression, they come out of, hypnosis saying, that can't be true. Like, it's impossible that I would remember something like that, right? And when they come back to the next session, they're like, you know what, I spoke to my mother. She said it's true. Right? Nothing is lost by the subconscious mind.
It's wonderful how our mind can exist in at different levels, of consciousness. We generally look at everything in a linear way, conventionally. That is not how it is. As humans, we are multidimensional. I think that thing has to, go to every field, and people should perceive things like that, not just, believe in just whatever you see.
Absolutely. And any doctor or any pati, right, that looks at the human existence as a synergetic existence of multiple systems at multiple levels, I think that's the way to go today. And that is what gives you long lasting results. Otherwise, you can address the symptoms,
but not the root cause.
But not the root cause. And that's the reason it will keep coming back. I worked with people, who had, who come in with psoriasis or breast cancer, heart disease. I've had people who have come in at the brink of needing surgery. At no point in time will I ever tell my clients to discontinue treatment, medical treatment. If that's what needs to be done, please do it. What we're doing is to aid whatever form of treatment you're taking, so that we can address it at the psychological level and ensure that from now on it can be different for you. So the symptom, what happened in the physical body, tells us about parts of our life that are not functioning for us, that are not bringing us joy, validation, love. And if we can address that part, whether or not your physical issue, the physical treatment, whatever you need to go through is going to go away or not, but at least we know that particular aspect of your life is going to function better. And I have had many cases where after a couple of sessions, their physical issues have reversed.
That's nice.
With IBS. In fact, I remember this particular client who had a severe back pain. Yeah. And the back pain started after a particular accident they had. Accident, what can you do? This happens. I just got to live with it. While the client came in for something else, and when this came up and it associated with a particular, issue in their life, and we worked on it, one session. And the next week, she came back and said, Preethi, I don't know what you did. For the first time in so many years, I've been able to lift my child.
That's
I'm not
beautiful.
happy. The things that the mind can do is just phenomenal. And the subconscious mind is like, because that holds 90%, it's the 90% stakeholder there, shareholder there. It is so much more powerful than the conscious mind.
Most
And when
definitely.
you're able to address it at the subconscious level, at the emotional level, at the belief system level, a whole lot can change, which will percolate into the physical body. Which means, depending upon what emotion it is stored in a particular part of the body.
Yes.
And when we release that particular emotion, that blockage, that energy block in that particular part of the body starts to dissipate, and energy can flow through it again. And when that happens, it can revive its function. A lot of times, I wouldn't say all the time. Sometimes whatever has happened has done a whole lot of damage to the physical body, and it's very hard to reverse it. I totally have to acknowledge that.
That is why
And yet,
homeopathy has really good scope. It can reverse
yeah,
pathology. Yes, yes. Most
in fact,
definitely. A lot.
I've never shared this before. I can't believe I'm sharing it on a public forum. I had IBS, and allopathy just said I had to live on some kind of medication for the rest of my life, and I wasn't comfortable with it. And given that I had this particular education, this particular understanding, I did do therapy and all of this. While it gave me some amount of relief, there were still traces. Like it would come back once in a while, and again I would have to go back to therapy, and there would be some amount of it would keep getting better. But let's say I was at 100% really bad space, it would get better. The first instant it got better by 70%. Then the improvement is like 5%, 10%, 20%, because there is some aspect at the physical level, not at the psychological level. At the physical level, there is some aspect that the energy is unable to flow back. And when allopathy and all the other stuff failed me, I ended up coming to homeopathy. And 1 month, and it's been a couple of years now, and I haven't had any issues since.
Oh, that's great. We generally associate it with suppressed anger. Anything related to your stomach and those things. Yes.
Right? More
So
than
that
suppressed anger, it was also about, because it is to do with the stomach and the intestines, it is to do with digestion. It's about something in my life that I couldn't digest.
exactly.
Right? So if we have to, go back into the dictionary of the body, every part of the body has a function.
I think we
And
can
that,
take this.
yeah, and that function can give us a clue into what is happening in our life at the emotional level.
True.
Right? Say, for example, the eyes. People who have eyesight issues, power, common, no? Farsight or farsightedness or nearsightedness. What does the eyes do? Eyes help you see. And if there is a blockage in the eyes, it means I don't want to see.
See something, yes. Yes. A
Right?
lot of conjunctivitis issues that just crop up like out of the blue overnight. And the patient is fine the previous day, the next morning, the patient wakes up to a red eye and a lot of swelling and all those things. And they really don't know what had happened. And when you talk to them and ask, like, what was that? There has to be something that has affected them that has made them angry, and they also don't want to look at it. So we say in homeopathy, if there has to be any kind of a sudden inflammation which is just coming out of the body, there has to be anger. That is why all the redness, the anger that has been suppressed. A lot of cases I have seen conjunctivitis when I asked them what had happened, what their reaction was, the patients, and when the remedy is given, like within 24 hours, the conjunctivitis is like gone.
Yes, absolutely. Right?
Without any antibiotics, without any drops, nothing.
In fact, when we look at, I don't want to see this, Many a times it may not have reached anger, because anger is a secondary emotion. Anger can never be a primary emotion. So when there is an unaddressed issue, something that makes me feel, let's say, um, something that makes me feel helpless, something that makes me feel insulted. Right? To begin with, there is that shame, there is that annoyance. Like, I feel so ashamed. Yeah, you shouldn't have said that. I feel so insulted, but I feel helpless. But when that is, there is no solution there. It's not getting better. I haven't found a way to address it and fix the issue, to express myself adequately. Over a period of time, it keeps piling up and then it transforms into anger. So anger is like the tip of the iceberg. So anger is what you see, but underneath anger is a whole array of emotions. And what I don't want to see can also be that I don't want to see that I'm being betrayed. I don't want to see that I'm helpless. I don't want to see that you're insulting me. I don't want to see that there's corruption happening. I don't want to see that my mother or my father or a relative or sibling or whatever, they're doing something. I don't want to address it because there's nothing I can do about it. Or I don't want to know that my husband could do something like this. I don't want to know that my mother is capable of talking like this or doing this. And that's what I'm blocking out from my vision. So part of me knows, but nahi, mujhe kuch nahi karna hai. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to see it. Now, when we get angry, for example, what's the first thing that we do? Your fists can do that,
Yes.
or your
Your
jaws.
you
Yes,
can
your jaws.
clench
You
it,
try
you
to the jaw. You bite your teeth, right? So then this part, this is where the feeling is, the tightness is. When there are issues around here, it means there is stored anger. Cheek.
Yes, and a lot of tonsillitis cases also that I see, they have that suppressed anger. There is something that they're not able to speak out. And the kids have
Absolutely.
recurrent tonsillitis or an adult. When we address that root cause and we treat them, then very beautifully it just disappears, and to never come back.
In
With
fact,
homeopathy.
when clients say, "Oh, I've got a bad throat today. It's a throat infection," I'm like, "Who do you want to bark at?" And you're not able to.
Yes.
So basically, I just want to yell and tell you what a horrible person you are. How dare you? But I can't.
Yeah.
And that energy that's held back is putting so much pressure on this part. And that's the physical symptom. And when it comes to the hands, the muscle pain. So if it is, let's say, this part, what do we associate this part with? So
Oh,
this part, the
we also have
biceps.
some side affinities. We
Ah,
also have some side affinities. Like right side means something, left side means something. Right side is generally a partner, a father, money,
mhm.
or your work. Left side is something related to friends, your something you to someone you're related through blood, something like that. Yeah, there are a lot of things that we
Interesting.
associate.
Uh, for us, we look at right side as the relationship with the world and left as
Mm-hmm.
the relationship with yourself.
Okay.
So the pain is on the left side of my body here, then it means I'm angry with myself. I can't believe I allowed this to happen. I should have done something about it. I should have stopped XYZ. This is, how could they do this? The right side is, how could they do this? How dare they say this? I can't believe they did this to me. That's the right. You know?
Yes, yes. And a lot of migraine cases that come up.
Mhm.
Pathologically, there's nothing wrong, but they are getting migraines. So we generally ask if they have any issues with the head of the family. It could be somebody in the family, or it could be a boss. In the hierarchy, it'll generally be somebody, in a higher position than they are. So when we talk to them about their life and the people around them, and somewhere we get a clue that something is wrong. And they've been submissive, they're not able to talk back, and they've been dominated by somebody. Yeah, and again we ask them where it is, right side or left side, and then we
Mhm.
we tell them from who it is actually happening. And then they were like,
Interestingly, we
yes,
look migraine as pressure. There's some kind of a pressure that you're dealing with, and what you may say makes absolute sense. It's authority. Somewhere
yeah,
you feel dominated, and that's putting pressure, and that's
pressure.
what is migraine, right? And biceps is, you're ready to fight. And the upper part, you raise your hand to get attention in a class. You want to put yourself out there and do something, but you're unable to, right? Or bicep is, you're standing on edge, you're ready to fight, you're ready to put up a fight. You feel
Mhm.
threatened or attacked. Anything to do with the hands generally is to do with fighting, some kind of a fight mode.
Yeah. Yes.
And anything to do with the legs is some kind of a flight mode.
Yeah. That is
Yeah,
there.
I want to take a step forward. So right side is I need to start something and I'm not able to do that. I really want to start working. I really want to start a particular hobby. I want to start a particular class. I want to do it, but I'm not able to do it. I want to do it, but something is holding me back.
Yeah.
That
You're
time, the
talking about
tendency
this
for
one
us
too?
to stub the toes on our right leg is much higher. The tendency
Yes.
for us to sprain the right leg is much higher.
Yeah, yeah. And you
And
spoke about the extremities. I would like to tell about joint problems. Why doesn't everybody of a certain age come to you for joint issues? Because yes, the bones are, getting weaker by the day with age and all those things, but not everybody comes to you with the same issue because there has to be something. Their sensitivity is, each person's sensitivity is different. Somebody who comes to you with joint issues or ligament issues, something like that, they are generally high esteemed people whose ego is hurt very easily, and that is when people end up with a lot of joint issues. A lot of them come to me with, I mean, ligament tears and all that at a very young age. And you ask them if they had done any, very heavy physical activity that sprained their leg, and there's nothing. And when you go to the life space investigation and when you try to find out about them and their everybody around them, and that is when you get to know how sensitive they are to
mm,
criticism, and or if somebody hurts their ego, all those things, and it's so beautifully the symptom comes out, and when the remedy is prescribed and the person is absolutely fine.
yeah, yeah. So another perspective, very similar to the other side, other explanation for this is when there is a joint issue, joints give you flexibility, right?
Hmm. Yes.
And when there is a pain or an inflammation in the joints, it means you're unable to be flexible, which also goes very much with what you're saying with respect to high self-esteem and high ego and stuff like that. Where they're very clear. This is how it is. This is right. This
Yes,
is wrong. It's black or it's white. There's no in between. If you can't see
exactly.
this, I don't know what you're thinking. Right? So when they come from that perspective that this is the only truth there is, or this is the only right thing,
A lot of
that
stiffness there.
lack of flexibility creates a pain.
Yeah, and a lot of hair fall issues. People try to, apply the most expensive hair oil and do everything, but if unless and until you do not like address the root cause, your hair fall is not going to come down. What I have generally seen is, I mean, in homeopathy, when somebody comes to us with hair fall, they generally have some identity issues. Hair is what it generally gives us our identity. I mean, all of us love our hair, right? And when we ask and we talk to them, we somewhere get an idea that their identity, they are not being able to, identify themselves properly, or somebody is putting them down, or they're not able to do anything in their life, and they're, somewhere blaming themselves and telling themselves that I'm of no use, I don't have any identity. And that is when they have a lot of hair issues. And once that is addressed, it comes back so beautifully.
Self-image, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Years,
Yeah, this is how you
pain and
can.
infection in the ears is again, I don't want to hear this.
Yes.
If it's in the left side of my body, I don't want to listen to my own inner voice. My inner voice is saying, my gut is saying something is not okay, you don't talk like this or do X, Y, Z. But I'm not listening to my inner voice. That's infection or pain in the left side. The right is, I don't want to listen to advice. I don't want to listen to the other person's perspective. That's also similar to the neck. Neck gives you multiple perspectives. At least that's the way
This is
we look
also
at it.
honor. This is also honor. In the
Yeah,
society,
yeah.
I mean, this is honor. Yeah, when your honor is wounded, you generally end up with neck issues.
Yeah. Which also
Yeah.
says, I don't look at another person's perspective, right? What is
Yes.
my honor? I can't go down to the other person's way of thinking. Right? So
Again,
that,
somebody's self-esteem and his ego is affected with such issues.
mm, yeah, yeah. So this is an endless topic, like every part of the book, we can go to the head, to the eyelashes. There is a meaning for sure. Right? But what I do want to leave the audience with is, no matter what you're going through in life, no matter what your physical symptom is, it is most definitely related to something in the mind, something about how you're thinking, how you're perceiving a situation, and how you're feeling. And that is true even for children. Whatever a child's symptom is, it means something. It means there is a need that they have. There is an emotional, psychological need that they have. They don't know how to communicate and ask and get that need met. And that's what's coming out as a physical symptom. I would
And
urge you
that
to look.
and parents need to, pay special interest there and try to understand the child and try to work things out at the grassroots level rather than just looking at the symptoms.
Absolutely.
And each child's needs are different. Like how each person is different, each child's need is different. Some child might
Mm,
need respect, some child might need just love, some child might need just physical touch, a hug, a kiss. So it's very important to know the language of your child, like what the child
mm,
wants,
mm.
so that the child is not affected with anything and that does not register in the subconscious mind and it is carried forward in their later part of life.
I would also say that we have different needs at different times. The same person, there are times that I need a hug or a touch, and there are other times when I need my space. And what I need more depends on my language, like you said. The by language we're talking about the five love
Love
languages.
language.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. As I said by Gary Chapman, right? So that's what you're talking about. In some of the books that you can refer to understand this deeper is Louise Hay's "You Can Heal Your Life." Is a great book. There is also Lise Borbu. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Lise. Lise Borbu. Her book is again an amazing. It's literally a dictionary of how you can understand every disease that there is and the psychology behind it. And you can also read the Body Emotion Code, the Emotion Code. I think it is Brady Nelson.
Okay.
So you could uh, look into that. These are some of the books that I can think of right now.
Yeah, that's cool. And maybe now we
Thank you
one
so
slide.
much. It was really amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me on your talk.
Thank you. It's pleasure having you, and we share a lot of commonalities. Yeah, it was
Super.
really nice learning from you. We have a question. Yelling is what type of emotion?
Yelling. How are you feeling when you're yelling? Why would you yell? Wouldn't you? Why would you yell, really? So yelling is an expression of anger, no doubt. But beneath that anger is some kind of fear. Anger by itself is an outward expression of an internal unaddressed emotion. So I'm feeling powerless, and at some point I'm going to turn and say, "Hey, stop that!" I'm going to yell. But internally, it comes across as aggression, as anger, but internally I'm feeling powerless or I'm feeling insulted. I could also be feeling fear. I don't want somebody to find out what I did. Hey, no, that's not what it means. So yelling can have different meanings based on how you are feeling. It's an externally it comes across as anger, but we need to go beyond or beneath the anger to see what exactly it means.
Yeah, thank you, Preeti. Any more questions? That's it, I guess. And if you guys want us to, do any live, with respect to certain topics, you're most welcome to DM us and let us know. We'll surely plan for something. So, will that be okay?
Sure.
Did I commit on your behalf?
No, I'll be happy to do that.
All right. Okay.
All
Thank you,
righty.
everyone who joined. Yes. Have a great evening. Bye.